A new 9th Age battle report. Vampire counts versus Orc and Goblins. The vampire count drops everything in the middle of the deployment phase, and he's facing up against some unpainted stone trolls, gnasher dashers with 3 heroes in the same unit, including BSB and the general right here, a goblin king. The goblins are cave goblins, both units, and these are feral orc eadbashers, and a lone scrap wagon on the other side of the table. There's a building in the middle, and we're playing for capturing flags. 5 vampire knights, great bats in the rear, a black coach, zombies, barrow guards, and they're taking the first turn now, skeletons. And here we have vampire spawns and more vampire knights. The vampire count only has 3 scoring unit choices. These night goblins here, the feral orc eadbashers, and the other night goblins, 4 captured flags. The orc and goblin player chooses the 2 units of vampire knights on each flank, and these zombies which the player would have placed in the rear to protect them. And trying to capture those flags are the goblins, the trolls, the giants, and there are even orcs there. The vampire general thinks carefully, and he commands his count, the strong lord, to flank his army instead of riding up into the horizon, and he commands him, "Cast your spell, arise." They, in the magic phase, try to cast arise 2 times, and they get it off 1 time. That's the general, the vampire courtier, in the barrow guard unit who gets it off. The other one was dispelled. 7 versus 7 magic dice. And 7 veil tokens. The vampire takes 3 veil tokens with him into the next phase, and you can see on the dice how many models are arisen in the 2 zombie units and the skeleton unit. We only have 3 units to summon in this battle, so it's not a big bubble, but there are many strong units in this vampire count army. Now it's Orc and Goblin turn 1. About the terrain, this is a building. It's an impassable feature over on the flank with the vampire spawns and vampire knights. We have a couple of forests and a couple of lakes. This is not a hill over here, it's just a terrain feature for the visuals, but there's a lake with the game mechanics that go with it on the top of the scenery, which counts for the gaming. The orcs take a risky move, moving forwards with the gargantula and the river trolls, so they're within range of charge of much of the enemy. Now the question is, what will the enemy gain from running into these van troops? The gargantula got the Rod of Battle bound spell cast on it, so it has 1+ to hit if some vampire knights or skeletons choose to charge it, or maybe even the vampire spawns. They're all hard hitting. Let's see if the vampire will go for them. On the other hand there, they move a little less, not wanting to be flanked by the black coach. A new scrap wagon appears on the battle, which was also on the roster sheet but not included in the deployment, so we just put it in the middle. Now it'll be the vampire count's opportune moment. He has the initiative. Ikke du har gått innenfor 6 av meg, så kan jeg komme unna, men du har gått innenfor 6, så nå får du ut fanatics uansett. Så det var bra.
Sånn.
Nei, nå... The Vampire Knights charge the Gargantula in a way that avoids that they'll be flank charged as a counter charge. They'll be front charged by the trolls, maybe, if all 3 of them survive. These bat swarms come up to chaff and draw out the fanatics from the goblins, as do these on the other flank, with the other night goblins. There is only the 1 charge of the Vampire Knights. That's Vampire Count turn 2. Only the combat with the Gargantula and the Vampire Knights remains. Let's see how this turn wound up. Wag! The first time a Goblin King can shout Wag is in version 2.0, and he does. On turn 2, the Orcs and Goblins charge in with everything. The Savage Orcs, Ardboys, the Giant, the Stone Trolls, all charge in to the Barrow Knights, except the Stone Trolls charge into these, the Chaff unit first, and they may hit into the Barrow Guards or the Skeletons. The River Trolls charge the Skeletons in the front. This Giant charges the Vampire Spawns, who are now free to be charged because there are only 2 Vampire Knights left. So they're no longer protected from a charge.
Jeg skal ta livet litt, da. Eller vil du ta?
The Goblins reform out into a broad line, but we'll do that in my turn, so we don't waste any gaming time. We've wasted a lot of gaming time on learning the new 2.0 rules. And we've forgotten pretty much every spell that gets 1+ to hit and 2 reroll to hit. We've forgotten to apply, but I think we've made it pretty... no, we just messed that up. But the Spider killed the last Vampire Knights. The Giant did 1 wound to the Vampire Spawn, and the 1 Vampire Spawn clipping it fought back, killing 1 wound of the Giant, and the Vampire Spawns reformed, so that all 3 can attack the Giant next turn. It looks good for them. The River Trolls won combat against the Skeletons, but only by 2. The Skeletons with their halberds actually killed 1 River Trolls, 3 wounds. The Stone Trolls there, of course they killed the Bat Swarm, but they only got 5 on the overrun, 1 inch away from overrunning into the Barrow Guards, which meant that the Giant lost combat by 4 against the Barrow Guards in their flank. The Vampire Count was brave, facing up against the Giant in the flank and yelling "make way", doing 4 wounds to the Giant, and it ran through the Black Coach but didn't lose any wounds on dangerous terrain. Since this is a warm-up match for the Norwegian Championships, and we're testing out the Orc and Goblins and Vampire Count list, we'll probably redeploy both armies tomorrow and try strategy again. What was it about the Vampire Count deployment and strategy that didn't go perfectly?
A lot of the movement in the movement phase was done very poorly.
It's very difficult to get the bubble right, the arise bubble to raise skeletons and zombies, and getting the strategy absolutely right to be able to cast the arise spell with both vampire counts, or both the courtier and the count, so that it's harder to dispel at least one of them. That was difficult because those were the only 2 spells. And then you had the reroll to hit spell, which you could cast once you were in combat, but you didn't have that option before. So you had to keep both the counts inside the bubble, both the count and the courtier,